Okay, last question for today. Do I want my inner children to grow up, or should I just accept them as childlike forevermore? Great question. Great question. So there are four parts of you that we predominantly talk about in the four people within. There's the thinker, the feeler, the sensor, and the intuitive. Some of them are outward facing, some of them are inward facing. Some of them are your inner children, some of them are the grown-up parts of you. To answer your question, I want to just say that there is what we call a shadow part of you. Now, don't confuse this with what Carl Jung was talking about when he was talking about shadow, because he was talking about basically what we call your inner children. But what we call our shadow part is the opposites of all of those four people within you, which means that as long as you continue to learn about yourself, you initially work with the four people within, and then after that you start to work with the shadow four people. So let's just say that you're an INFJ, so you have an inward intuition as your number one function, your adult self, inward intuition. That means that your fifth function is outward facing intuition. So it's the shadow side, so the flip side, that's oriented opposite to your current adult self, is in this case outward facing intuition. If you're an INFJ, your inner parent is outward facing feeling, and the shadow of that is inward facing feeling. So your shadow your shadow inner parent is inward facing feeling. If your inner 10-year-old is inward facing thinking, if you're an INFJ, then your shadow 10-year-old is outward facing thinking. And finally, of course, if your inner 3-year-old is, if you're an INFJ, an outward facing sensing, then your eighth and final function on the shadow side, because your shadow is from 5 to 8, your final and eighth function is inward facing sensing. So your inner children will not stay childlike forever. They will become teenagers and then young adults and then so on and so forth and keep maturing. And you will actually find this shadow part of you, which are even less developed than your inner child parts of you, to come forward when you're ready, and you'll start to work on that. I'm so excited to see what happens after that, because I'm currently working with my shadow 3-year-old. So I'm very, very curious on what happens next. And yeah, I can't wait to find out. But basically, to answer your question, you will have, if you can preserve the childlike wonder for each ones of your each functions that you have, each of the four different on the light side and the other four on the shadow side, if you can embrace childlike expressions of all of those, then you will always have a childlike wonder in your life, and your life never gets too serious. And that's why playing with kids or playing with dogs or playing with animals can be so healing for us, because even the grown-up parts of us get to maybe interact with somebody whose inner child is the same type as our grown-up types, and then we'll be able to we almost have like an excuse to play out the childlike wonder even in those grown-up parts of us. So I hope that answers that question. I know this is a little bit technical. I get it. We haven't really talked about this to these depths before, but I hope that makes sense to you, and I hope that if it doesn't make sense, or if you have further questions or you want to continue this conversation, pop some comments in the comment section or email me. We are here to converse. As I said, we have a 20 to 50-year plan in creating more and more compassionate and effective leadership in the world, starting from the individual, starting from you, starting from me, starting from every person who wants to see this future coming to fruition. And if you want to be a part of that and you don't know what to do, email us. We'll be happy to have that conversation with you. All right. Well, thank you for today's questions. What a fantastic list of questions we had today. such a joy and a privilege to be answering those questions. And yeah, I hope to talk to you real soon. You have a great week, and we'll see you in the next session. Take care of yourself.